As the Delta outbreak flares up across the country, the need to ramp up testing becomes even more paramount. The World Health Organization says the ideal positivity rate, or the number of people testing positive every day, should be less than 5%. How do we fare in this department? The numbers are on your screens. Our positivity rate is at 20 to 25%. The WHO says higher positivity numbers may mean there are untested and undetected COVID cases in the community. To help us make sense of this all, we're joined by Dr. Januario Veloso, head of the UP PGH Medical Research Laboratory. Dr. Bill, thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word. It has always been stressed since the beginning of this pandemic, and we started our lockdown in March 2020. Testing, to trace where these variants of concern or interest are located. But it looks like we haven't really ramped it up. How important is the rapid antigen test in this fight against COVID-19?
First of all, good evening, Rico. Good evening to everyone, and thank you for having me. You're right. We've been in this pandemic for a long time. It's my second birthday under ECQ. How do we ramp up testing? Well, we definitely need to use all the tools at hand. And one of them, as you mentioned, is antigen testing. Yes, we need to use, aside from PCR testing, we also need to utilize antigen testing.
RT-PCR, doctor, is the gold standard, and these tests are the only ones counted by the DOH in the official numbers for those who are infected. Should the antigen tests also be included?
If antigen tests are used for diagnosing active cases, yes, I believe they should be counted in the number of tests, especially if they're done by laboratories and wherein they're trying to detect testing symptomatic patients. Yes, they should be counted among the tests being done.
But doctor, there are fears that antigen tests are not really as accurate as the RT-PCR and could result in false negative or a false positive.
You have to look at it in a certain context. Antigen testing, certainly, if you talk about sensitivity and specificity, is not as accurate as PCR testing, but it is accurate if you know how to use it, because antigen testing is positive in the most highly infectious, positive in the infectious period. So that's when the viral loads are highest. So actually, it's quite accurate in that stage. PCR can pick you up in the pre-infectious phase when viral loads are very low, and in the post-infectious phase when your viral loads are going down and you may not be infectious anymore. Whereas antigen testing is positive during the infectious phase of the disease. So actually, it's accurate in that sense.
And how accurate are they? Because you are from the medical research lab. Have you tested every antigen test product available in the Philippines? Because there are dime a dozen, doctor.
Well, we have to look at the real world numbers when we look at antigen testing. And remember that the timing of the testing is also very crucial. If you just compare antigen testing and PCR testing, if you don't test them at the infectious period, definitely antigen testing will suffer. But if you test them during the infectious period, antigen testing is just as good. And this has been borne out by a lot of studies, including studies done by the RITM.
And the antigen tests that you would recommend, are these the ones approved by the WHO, the Philippine FDA, and the US FDA, and the European FDAs?
Yes, we should look for the tests that have WHO EUA approval. We should look for tests that have been validated locally, the tests that have been validated by the RITM and issued a special certification by our FDA. we have to look at those tests, and also be aware of which tests among these tests are the ones that with the greatest global presence, the ones that are being used widely globally as well,
But
because they
doctor,
have real world data.
but now we're also
Yeah.
seeing these self-testing at home COVID-19 antigen tests, and they're available in the market. Is this advisable?
Okay, the technology, although it's antigen based, is still, they make it simpler. So home testing is targeted. Home testing kits are targeted for home testing. The antigen testing kits that we have on our market are a little more complicated than just for home testing. So you will still need training in order to do the antigen test properly. A lot of the problems with antigen testing can be traced to poor technique in doing the test.
Dr. Januario Veloso, thank you so much for your insights on the antigen test.